Florida's condo market just lost 20% of its value, and that's only the beginning. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. Behind the cold, hard data, there's a storm brewing, one that's shaking the foundations of coastal living. It's not just about prices dropping, it's about trust eroding, insurance skyrocketing, and buyers walking away. The dream of oceanfront living is cracking under the weight of reality. And if you think this is just a blip, think again. The ripple effects are spreading faster than anyone expected, and the worst part? We're only seeing the first wave. Well, let me tell you, it's been a wild ride around here lately. Seems like every other day, another family rolls into town with a U-Haul and a dream. And who can blame them? This place has always had charm, but now it's got something else. Buzz. People are talking about us, and that means demand is through the roof. But here's the thing. When demand goes up, prices follow. It's basic economics, right? The houses that used to sit on the market for months, gone in a weekend. The little mom and pop shops that were once hidden gems, now they're charging what the big city spots do, and don't even get me started on rent. It's like someone flipped a switch and suddenly everything costs more. Some folks say it's progress. Others, they're not so sure, but one thing's certain. This town ain't what it used to be, and whether that's good or bad depends on who you ask. The numbers were steady, predictable, until they weren't. One day, the lines on the screens were climbing, just like always. Then, without warning, they dropped like a stone. Not a dip, not a correction, but a full-blown freefall. The market flipped, and just like that, the bottom fell out. Insurance companies, those giants built on promises of security, started to wobble. First, it was whispers. Rumors of liquidity issues, quiet panics in boardrooms. Then, the cracks turned into fractures. Policies that were supposed to be ironclad suddenly had loopholes big enough to drive a truck through. Claims were denied, payouts delayed, and then, one by one, the collapses began. It wasn't just one company. It was a domino effect. The market's sudden turn had exposed the fragility of it all. People who thought they were protected found themselves staring at worthless paper. The safety nets were gone, and the fall was just beginning. You know, it's been a wild ride in the housing market lately. Mortgage rates have shot up, and suddenly those shiny new condos aren't flying off the shelves like they used to. A few years ago, you could barely blink before a unit was snatched up, but now, developers are sitting on stacks of unsold properties, and buyers are pumping the brakes. It's not hard to see why. When rates climb, monthly payments balloon, and that dream condo starts looking more like a financial anchor. First-time buyers especially are feeling the pinch. They're either priced out or waiting to see if things cool down. Meanwhile, investors who once saw condos as easy money are now second-guessing their bets. And let's not forget the ripple effect. Construction slows, jobs get shaky, and suddenly the whole market's in a bit of a holding pattern. Some say it's just a correction, others worry it's a sign of bigger trouble. Either way, if you're in the market for a place, you might finally have some breathing room to negotiate. But if you're selling? Well, let's just say patience is the name of the game right now. The storm rolled in faster than anyone expected. Hurricane Erin wasn't just another weather report. It was a beast, churning up the coast with winds that howled like a freight train. And just like that, everything was on hold. The deals that were supposed to close by Friday? Pushed back. The contracts waiting for signatures? Buried under evacuation plans. Realtors scrambled to move showings. Buyers second-guessed their offers, and sellers wondered if they'd ever see another bid. It wasn't just the rain or the wind, it was the uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty. And when a hurricane barrels toward the shore, nobody's thinking about square footage or interest rates. They're thinking about sandbags and generators. The phones went quiet, emails piled up unanswered, and the whole machine of buying and selling just stopped. But storms pass, and when they do, the market comes roaring back, sometimes even stronger. For now, though, everyone was just waiting it out. The meeting room was packed, voices clashing like swords in a duel. "You can't just override the committee like that." Senator Harris slammed his fist on the table, his face flushed. Across from him, Director Chen didn't even flinch. "The executive order stands. If you'd bothered to read the briefing, you'd know this was coming." A murmur rippled through the room. Someone in the back shouted, "This is a power grab, plain and simple." Papers flew as aides scrambled to keep up, whispering frantically into their phones. The air was thick with tension, every word laced with accusation. Then the doors burst open. A young staffer, wide-eyed and breathless, pushed through the crowd. "They're calling for a vote of no confidence, right now." The room erupted. Chairs scraped, voices rose, and for a moment, it felt like the whole government was about to collapse under the weight of its own chaos. So here's the thing. What if the government stepped in? I mean, really stepped in. Not just some half-hearted press release or a task force that fizzles out in 6 months. We're talking real policies, real teeth. Imagine laws that actually hold corporations accountable, not just slap them with fines they can afford to ignore. Tax incentives for companies that do the right thing, but serious penalties for those that don't. And not just at the federal level, local governments could tailor solutions to fit their communities. Now, I know what you're thinking. Government? Really? They can't even agree on lunch, let alone big changes. But hear me out. If enough people push, if the demand gets loud enough, they have to listen. Look at history. Real change often starts with policy. The Clean Air Act, the Civil Rights Act, these weren't just ideas floating around. They were laws that forced action. But here's the catch. It's not just about passing laws, it's about enforcement. A policy is only as good as the people willing to make it stick. So yeah, it's a start, but it's not the whole answer. Still, without that first push from the top, how much can really change? So let's talk about the second solution: community and investor initiatives. This is where things get really interesting because it's not just about throwing money at a problem, it's about building something sustainable. Imagine local businesses, residents, and investors all coming together with a shared goal. They're not just writing checks, they're rolling up their sleeves and getting involved. Investors bring more than just capital. They bring expertise, connections, and long-term vision. And when they partner with communities, something special happens. The community knows the needs, the culture, the real challenges on the ground. Investors can help scale those solutions, turning small, local efforts into something bigger and more impactful. But here's the key. It's got to be a real partnership. Not top-down, not just a PR move. It's about listening, collaborating, and making sure the benefits actually reach the people who need them most. When done right, these initiatives can create jobs, improve infrastructure, and even change lives. And the best part? It's not charity, it's smart business. Everyone wins when communities thrive. You know, sometimes the best way to see what works is to look at what's already working elsewhere. Take Sweden, for example. They tackled their public health challenges by focusing on early education and community programs. Instead of waiting for problems to escalate, they invested in schools and local initiatives that taught kids healthy habits from the start. And guess what? It paid off. Their obesity rate stabilized and overall wellness improved. Then there's Rwanda. After the genocide, they had to rebuild their entire healthcare system from scratch. They trained community health workers to go door to door, providing basic care and education. It wasn't glamorous, but it was effective. Child mortality rates dropped and access to care skyrocketed. And let's not forget Australia's approach to tobacco control. They didn't just slap on a warning label, they went all in with plain packaging, high taxes, and public awareness campaigns. Smoking rates plummeted because they made it harder to ignore the risks. The common thread? These places didn't just throw money at the problem. They got creative, they got local, and they stuck with it. That's the kind of thinking we need here. The situation is clear. We've got a problem and it's not going away on its own. The data shows a steady decline, and if we don't act now, we're looking at serious consequences down the line. Time isn't on our side here. Every day we wait, the harder it gets to turn things around. We've identified the root causes and the solutions are within reach, but they require decisive action. This isn't about pointing fingers or dwelling on what went wrong. It's about rolling up our sleeves and making the necessary changes before it's too late. The team's ready, the plan's in place. Now we just need the green light to move forward. The longer we hesitate, the more we risk losing ground we can't afford to lose. So let's not waste another minute. The time to act is now. You know, this conversation doesn't have to end here. If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, why not share it with someone else who might feel the same? Hit that share button and let's get more people talking about this. And hey, while you're at it, drop a comment below. What solutions do you think could make a real difference here? Maybe you've got an idea that hasn't been mentioned yet. Let's hear it, because the best way to move forward is together. So go ahead, share your thoughts, and let's keep this conversation going. Who knows, your idea might just be the one that sparks real change.